Imagine standing on the coast of Australia, looking out over the vast, shimmering blue of the Pacific Ocean. Everything looks perfect from the surface. But beneath those waves, a silent crisis has been unfolding for decades. The vibrant underwater world that once teemed with life was slowly turning into a barren desert of sand and rubble. But then, something radical happened. Massive barges appeared on the horizon, loaded with 10,000 giant, strange-looking concrete blocks. One by one, they were dumped into the deep. To an outsider, it looked like a massive environmental disaster or a bizarre construction project gone wrong. Was Australia just using the ocean as a trash can for construction waste? Or was there something much deeper, much more ingenious at play? Today, we are diving into the incredible story of how 10,000 concrete blocks became the foundation for a biological miracle that has scientists around the world stunned. This isn't just a story about rocks and water. It's a story of how human engineering and Mother Nature teamed up to pull off one of the greatest comebacks in the history of the sea. To understand why anyone would dump 10,000 blocks into the ocean, we first have to understand the problem. For years, the reefs off the coast of Australia have been facing immense pressure. Climate change, overfishing, and changing ocean currents have led to the loss of massive areas of natural reef structures. When a natural reef disappears, it's not just the coral that goes. It's the entire neighborhood. Think of a coral reef like a bustling megacity. The coral provides the skyscrapers and the apartment buildings. The residents, meaning the fish, the crustaceans, and the tiny marine organisms, have nowhere to live, nowhere to hide from predators, and nowhere to raise their young. When the structure collapses, the city becomes a ghost town. Large stretches of what used to be vibrant habitats were becoming flat, featureless plains of sand, where nothing could survive for long. The Australian government and marine biologists knew they had to act, but nature takes hundreds if not thousands of years to build a massive reef structure. They didn't have that kind of time. They needed a shortcut. They needed a way to provide an instant foundation that nature could move into immediately. This is where the idea of the artificial reef came in. Now people have been sinking things to make artificial reefs for a long time. Old ships, retired subway cars, and even old tires have been tossed into the ocean. But those often came with massive problems. And old ships can be messy. The scientists in Australia wanted something different. They wanted something designed with scientific precision. They wanted the 10,000 blocks. These weren't just random chunks of concrete left over from a bridge project. Each block was a piece of high-tech engineering, specifically designed to mimic the complexity of a natural reef. They featured intricate tunnels, varying textures, and specific types of concrete that were pH balanced so that marine life wouldn't be repelled by the material. They were shaped to catch the ocean currents in just the right way, swirling nutrient-rich water into the center of the structure to feed the tiny organisms that would eventually call it home. When the first barge arrived and began dropping these massive structures into the water, it was a moment of high tension. Millions of dollars and years of research were being plunged into the abyss. What happened next began slowly, but then it accelerated in a way that no one truly expected. Within days, a thin layer of biofilm began to cover the concrete. This is a microscopic layer of bacteria and algae that acts like a biological glue. It's the first sign that the ocean is accepting the new arrival. To the naked eye, it just looked like the blocks were getting slimy, but to a marine biologist, this was the sound of the dinner bell ringing for the entire ocean. Tiny grazing fish and invertebrates arrived to eat the film. And as we know in the wild, where there are small things to eat, the bigger things are never far behind. Within weeks, the blocks were no longer gray. They started to take on the hues of the ocean. Small corals known as recruits began to attach themselves to the textured surfaces of the concrete. This is the genius part of the design. By providing a stable, hard surface in an area that was previously just shifting sand, the Australians gave the coral a place to land. Coral larvae are constantly floating around, looking for a home. If they land on sand, they perish. If they land on a stable concrete block, they begin to grow. The 10,000 blocks weren't just a reef. They were 10,000 landing pads for the future of the ocean. As months turned into years, the transformation became spectacular. The blocks started to disappear. Not because they were sinking or breaking, but because they were being completely encased in life. Soft corals, sponges, and sea fans covered every square inch. The holes and tunnels that were engineered into the blocks became prime real estate. Small fish tucked themselves into the crevices to sleep safely away from larger predators. Large predatory fish, like snapper and grouper, began to patrol the perimeter of the new structures. The city was being rebuilt, and it was happening much faster than anyone had dared to hope. But the genius of this project wasn't just about making a home for fish. It was about protecting the coastline itself. A healthy reef acts as a natural breakwater, absorbing the energy of the waves before they hit the shore. By placing these 10,000 blocks in strategic locations, the engineers essentially built a submerged fortress. The blocks break the power of the incoming swells, reducing coastal erosion and protecting the beaches that are so iconic to the Australian way of life. It's a double win. You get a flourishing ecosystem and a protected shoreline, all from a pile of specifically designed concrete. One of the most interesting things the scientists observed was the halo effect. You often see a circle of bare sand because the fish are too afraid to venture too far away from the safety of the rocks. However, with the 10,000 blocks spread out in a deliberate pattern, they created a massive network of interconnected habitats. They created a sprawling underwater suburb. Fish could travel from one block to the next, always keeping a place of safety within reach. This allowed the marine population to expand across a much larger area than a single, solid structure would have allowed. The success of the project has turned it into a global blueprint. Countries from all over the world are now looking to Australia's 10,000 blocks as a way to combat the loss of their own marine habitats. It's a testament to what happens when we stop fighting against nature and start providing the tools it needs to heal itself. We often think of human intervention in the environment as something negative. But this project proves that we can be a force for good. We can be the architects of a new, greener, or in this case, bluer future. Imagine diving down to those blocks today. You wouldn't even recognize them as man-made objects. You would see a kaleidoscope of color. You would see schools of thousands of fish swirling in silver clouds around the structures. You would see octopuses tucked into the corners, their camouflage matching the colorful sponges that grew on the concrete. It's a place of intense activity and life. What was once a desert is now an oasis. And it all started with a simple, albeit massive, plan to drop 10,000 blocks into the dark. The engineering behind the concrete itself is worth a closer look. Standard concrete used in buildings is often quite basic, but the ocean environment is incredibly harsh. Salt water can be very corrosive to the steel reinforcements typically used in construction. For the Australian project, they had to develop a special mix that could withstand the constant pressure and the chemical makeup of the sea for a century or more. They used recycled materials where possible, making the blocks themselves a product of sustainability. This wasn't just dumping waste. It was the birth of a new kind of green infrastructure that works beneath the surface. As the word of the project's success spread, it also became a major point of interest for the local economy. Fishermen found that the areas surrounding the new reefs were becoming more productive, because the blocks served as a nursery for young fish. Divers and snorkelers who used to have to travel to remote locations to see vibrant marine life now had world-class reefs right off the coast of major cities. This project proved that protecting the environment isn't just good for the planet, it's good for people too. However, the journey wasn't without its challenges. Placing 10,000 blocks requires incredible logistical precision. You can't just throw them over the side and hope for the best. Each block had to be GPS positioned to ensure they formed the correct patterns to interact with the currents. Divers had to go down in dangerous conditions to inspect the placement and ensure that the structures weren't shifting in the sand during heavy storms. It was a massive feat of maritime coordination that involved hundreds of workers and dozens of specialized vessels. There were also skeptics at the beginning. Some feared that the artificial reefs would simply act as a magnet for fish, pulling them away from natural reefs and making them easier to catch, rather than actually increasing the total number of fish in the ocean. But the long-term data has silenced many of those critics. By monitoring the recruitment of new fish and the growth of coral, researchers found that the blocks weren't just attracting existing fish, they were providing the necessary conditions for new generations to survive and thrive. They were increasing the carrying capacity of the ocean. This project also highlights the importance of the small stuff. We often focus on the big sharks or the beautiful whales. But a reef is built on the backs of tiny polyps and microscopic plankton. The way these concrete blocks were designed to create microenvironments is the real stroke of genius. Some parts of the blocks are in deep shade, which attracts certain types of light-sensitive organisms. Other parts are exposed to the sun and high-flow water, which is perfect for fast-growing corals. By creating a variety of niches within a single block, the engineers ensured a high level of biodiversity. The more diverse a reef is, the more resilient it is to changes in the environment. As we look toward the future, the lessons learned from Australia's 10,000 blocks are being applied to even more ambitious projects. Some are talking about 3D printing reefs that can perfectly match the contours of the seabed. Others are experimenting with electrified reefs that use low-voltage currents to accelerate the growth of coral on metal frames. But the foundation for all of this was the simple, bold move of using concrete to give nature a helping hand. It reminds us that sometimes, the most sophisticated solution is to provide a solid place to stand and then get out of the way. The success of the Australian project also serves as a poignant reminder of what we stand to lose. While these artificial reefs are a brilliant stopgap and a wonderful tool for restoration, they cannot replace the vast natural reef systems of the world entirely. But they do give us hope. They show us that it is not too late. They show us that with enough courage, resources, and genius engineering, we can reverse the damage and leave the ocean better than we found it. Think about the legacy of those 10,000 blocks. Long after the people who designed them are gone, those structures will still be down there. They will be massive, ancient mounds of coral and life indistinguishable from the natural world. Future generations of divers will explore them, marveling at the sheer abundance of life, perhaps never even knowing that it all started with a barge and a dream to save the sea. It's a gift to the future, hidden beneath the waves. It's also important to note the role of the community in this. Many of these projects weren't just top-down government mandates. They involved local fishing groups, environmental NGOs, and universities. The community took ownership of their local waters. They saw the decline, they demanded action, and they participated in the monitoring. This social genius is just as important as the engineering. When people care about their local environment, they become its most fierce protectors. The 10,000 blocks are a symbol of a community that refused to let its backyard die. In another part of the world, a similar project used reef balls, hollow, dome-shaped concrete structures with many holes. While the shape was different from the Australian blocks, the principle was the same. However, the Australian project stands out for its sheer scale and the industrial strength approach to solving a continental-scale problem. Dealing with the wild Southern Ocean and the powerful currents of the Pacific requires a level of robustness that few other projects have ever attempted. The transformation of the seafloor is a slow-motion miracle. If you were to watch a time-lapse of one of these blocks over 5 years, it would look like a gray stone slowly dissolving into a riot of color and movement. First, the green algae, then the pink crustose algae, then the tiny branching corals, and finally the thick, lush covering of life. It's like watching a forest grow and fast forward. But instead of trees, you have living animals that look like plants. The complexity of the food web that develops on just one of these blocks is enough to keep a scientist busy for a lifetime. Scientists have also found that these reefs are helping to mitigate some of the effects of ocean acidification. While they can't change the chemistry of the entire ocean, the intense biological activity on a healthy reef can create localized zones where the pH is more stable, giving the organisms a better chance of building their calcium carbonate skeletons. Every bit of help counts when the stakes are this high. One of the most heartening sights for the researchers was seeing endangered species moving into the blocks. Certain types of sea turtles and rare species of fish that were struggling to find habitat in the degraded natural reefs found the concrete structures to be a perfect sanctuary. It shows that if you build it, they really will come. The ocean is incredibly resilient if we just give it a fighting chance. As the program continues to expand, new designs are being tested. Some blocks now include lobster hotels specifically designed for crustaceans, or kelp anchors to help restore underwater seaweed forests. The 10,000 blocks was just the beginning of a new era of marine architecture. It's a field where biology and civil engineering blur together, creating something entirely new. The cost-benefit analysis of these projects is also eye-opening. While it costs millions to build and deploy these structures, the value they provide in terms of commercial fishing, tourism, and coastal protection is estimated to be 10 times that amount over their lifespan. It's one of the best investments a coastal nation can make. It's an investment in a living bank account that pays interest in the form of fish and beautiful beaches. Think of the genius of the timing as well. We are at a crossroads where we have the technology to do massive damage to the planet, but we also have the technology to perform massive repairs. The Australian project is a shining example of choosing the latter. It's a choice to use our industrial might to create rather than destroy. It's a choice to value the underwater world as much as the world we walk on. As you look out at the ocean today, remember that the surface tells only half the story. Beneath that blue horizon, right now 10,000 blocks are working. They are filtering the water, they are providing homes, they are protecting the land, and they are growing every single day. They are a silent, submerged monument to human ingenuity and the incredible power of life to find a way. The next time you hear about a large-scale engineering project, ask yourself if it could be as genius as this. Could we build our cities and our infrastructure in a way that actually helps the world around us? Could our bridges be homes for birds and our seawalls be nurseries for fish? The Australian project says yes. It tells us that our footprint on this earth doesn't have to be a scar. It can be a foundation for something beautiful. The data being collected from these 10,000 blocks is also fueling a new generation of marine researchers. Students and scientists from around the world are studying the Australia model. They are learning about the specific concrete mixes, the optimal spacing of the structures, and the way different species interact with the artificial reef. This knowledge is being shared freely, creating a global network of reef builders. The genius is spreading, and it's being adapted for different climates and different oceans. In some areas, the blocks are even being used to help restore seagrass meadows. By placing the blocks in a way that slows down the current, they create calm patches of water where seagrass can take root. Seagrass is one of the most effective carbon sinks on the planet, absorbing CO2 even faster than tropical rainforests. So those concrete blocks are indirectly helping to fight climate change on a global scale. The connections in nature are endless. And when you fix one part of the system, we hear so much about the problems that we can lose sight of the solutions. But projects like this one in Australia are a powerful antidote to that feeling. They show us that large-scale change is possible. They show us that we can dream big and achieve even bigger. 10,000 blocks might seem like a lot, but in the face of the vast ocean, it's just a start. Imagine what we could do with 1,000,000. The ingenuity of this project also lies in its simplicity. At its heart, it's just putting a hard thing in a soft place. It's a concept that even a child can understand. But it took the world's best minds to figure out the how and the where to make it work perfectly. It's the perfect marriage of common sense and high technology. It's about looking at the ocean not as a resource to be hollowly extracted, but as a partner to be supported. The shadows of the waves hide the incredible work going on underneath. The 10,000 blocks are there, steady and strong. The concrete is being replaced by calcium and life. The man-made is becoming the nature-made. And that, truly, is the most genius thing of all. It's a reminder that we are part of nature, and when we help it, we are really helping ourselves. What started as a barge full of blocks ended as a world-class ecosystem. It taught us that the ocean is ready to forgive our past mistakes if we are willing to work to make things right. It taught us that geniuses isn't just about making something new, it's about helping something old and vital to thrive once again. Australia's 10,000 blocks are a beacon of hope for every coastline in the world. They are a promise that the blue parts of our map are not empty spaces, but vibrant worlds that we have the power to protect and restore. The journey of the 10,000 blocks is far from over. In 10 years, 30 years, 100 years, they will still be there. They will be massive ancient structures, completely integrated into the sea. They will have survived storms and heat waves, and they will still be providing for the ocean. It's a legacy of life, built on a foundation of genius. As we move forward, let's take that spirit of innovation and apply it to everything we do. Let's build a world where our very existence helps the planet to flourish. The ocean is big, and its problems are vast, but 10,000 blocks have shown us that we don't need to do everything at once. We just need to start. We need to lay the first block, and then the next, and eventually, we will have built something miraculous. Australia showed us the way. Now it's up to the rest of the world to follow that lead and dive into the future with the same level of genius and determination. The project is a reminder that the ocean belongs to all of us, and its health is our health. By investing in these genius solutions, we are ensuring that the oceans remain a source of wonder, food, and protection for generations to come. The 10,000 blocks are no longer just concrete. They are the heart of a new reef, a symbol of recovery, and a testament to the power of human ingenuity. What happened next wasn't just genius. It was a miracle of cooperation between mankind and the sea, proving once and for all that we can be the builders of a better world.